Well, with me here in Westminster are the journalist and author Stephen Starr. He lived in Syria for 5 years, and his new book is called Revolt in Syria, Eyewitness to the Uprising. Also joined by our Sky News Arabia correspondent, Abderrahim El-Farsi. Welcome to you both. Stephen Starr, you know this, your book, you talk particularly about the different sections of Syrian society all coexisting. When you see something like a suicide bomb attack from inside, killing brother-in-law of the president and the defence secretary, what do you think?
I think the Messines are really afraid. I think they lived in a bubble up until a couple of days ago throughout the whole 16 months of the revolution. Now it's a whole new situation for them. And I think that they had clung to the regime for such a long time simply because it was the guarantor of stability in that. Now we see that's not the case anymore, and that the regime is very much susceptible to high-ranking
I mean, the rebel movement has said that the battle for Damascus has begun. I mean, what is the significance of being able to take this fight right into the capital?
It's very difficult to say, and I think we need to be careful because similar things happen in the eastern suburbs of Damascus, where rebels moved in at the end of last year, and also in Bab Amr, as we all know what happened in Homs, in Bab Amr and Homs in February, and they were routinely routed after I think a couple of weeks. Speaking of in Homs. So, you know, we need to be careful here. We can't get ahead of ourselves, I think, and we have to kind of, you know, see how things play out in the next few days.
Abderrahim, the Assad regime looking increasingly lonely.
Yes, sure. I think the biggest blow ever dealt to the regime since the start of the revolt or the uprising 17 months ago is what happened today. We are seeing the muscles of the regime just being get rid of. You're talking about the Minister of Defense, about Interior Minister. You're talking about Asif Shaukat, who is his brother-in-law, Assad's brother-in-law, and also a man who was accused of having blood on his hand. I think now it's the biggest ever blow, and maybe the house of the Assads is shaking now.
I have to ask, I mean, as far as we can tell, this was a suicide bombing. I mean, is this proof of what the regime has been saying, that Al-Qaeda and Islamists have now very successfully infiltrated the uprising?
I don't think so, because whoever carried out the attack, I think they are people known to the regime. They have been working with the regime. The regime doesn't trust anybody to get into the building which was hosting the meeting. And also the regime is, you know, this police regime. It's based on information services and intelligence. I don't think, anyway, if there are any Al-Qaeda or any Islamist groups operating inside Syria, it's not inside the. It's not. I don't think they are the ones who carried out the attack.
Stephen, so I have heard many people who profess to know Syria well saying, well, whatever you think about the Assads, at least they held a diverse society together, that Christians and Alawites and could continue to go about their religion, and the suggestion is that what follows afterwards may be less tolerant. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I don't think that's the case. I don't think we need to be afraid of a civil war taking place in Syria after the Syrian regime falls, and it will collapse. We don't know when exactly. And we can't compare it to Iraq or to Lebanon because the numbers don't add up. In Iraq, you had kind of a 60-40 divide percent between Shia and Sunni. In Syria, Alawis make up about 10-12% of the population, and they don't have majority populations in any urban areas other than these small villages in the mountains.
But they could be persecuted. I mean, the smaller the minority.
It's possible, and I think there will be retributions for sure from maybe Sunni villages that are maybe close to these Alawi villages in the mountains along the Syrian coast. But I don't think there's going to be kind of a large-scale civil war taking place there.
What do you think is likely to happen?
I think there'll be tremendous instability for a very long time. There will be serious difficulties in forming a transitional government. There'll be an awful lot of infighting, an awful lot of players trying to solidify their places in this new, hope to be a new transitional government.
And what do you feel is going to happen if this is the beginning of the end game for Assad?
I think so, yeah. I think so, because when they struck inside his inner circle, it's the beginning. It's a big message. It's a strong message to Assad and his henchmen or whoever supports him until now.
And is there any role for United Nations, NATO, to get involved, or should they simply stay back?
as long as Russia and China are using the veto or threatening to use the veto, I don't think neither the United Nations or NATO or whoever to do anything for the time being.
What do you think?
I don't think there needs to be international intervention. I don't think it would be good for Syria as a country if there were foreign troops or even free zones inside the country. I think it complicates the whole situation and brings it to another level of potential kind of instability. In that, I think you may have more Islamists in the country. You know, they'd be attracted by the fact that there are foreign troops there and so on. It seems today especially clear that the insurgency is able to work on its own, and it's making quite a lot of progress. And I think, time will tell.
Thank you both very much indeed. Stephen's book is Revolt in Syria. Thank you.